All right. Hello, everyone. Today is Wednesday, May 26th, and this is the Cluster API office hours. Cluster API is a sub-project of SIG Cluster Lifecycle. As always, please follow the meeting etiquette. Use the raise hand feature of Zoom if you'd like to speak up, and add any items that you want to bring up to the agenda. Please follow the CNCF code of conduct, be respectful of everyone else on this call, and let's get started. If you haven't already, please add your name to the attendee list. And we'll start with the PSAs. Sagar, you have the first one, go ahead.
So last week during the office hours we talked about like the cluster class proposal, and like there was like a Google Doc or the proposal was in the Google Doc format last week. I saw like a few people did go through it and like add some comments. I tried to like basically address all of them, and I did not see a lot of changes. So like went ahead and created a PR for the cluster class proposal, and I like if it is and I tried to copy like a couple of comments which I thought were still like useful and not addressed in the doc. So I basically copied over your comments, Cecile, and I think I'll be copying over one by Lubomir later. Yeah, so like basically I've attached the PR to the agenda doc. Like please go ahead if you haven't looked at it, and if you like have some thoughts or any ideas, just please go ahead and add it to the proposal as comments, and we could chat more on the proposal itself. That's about it.
Cool, and thank you for covering those. Any questions, Sagar, about the proposal? Okay, next one, Alberto coming a reviewer. So yeah, Alberto opened a PR to add him as reviewer. I think it's gone a lot +1. So we were holding until the meeting to merge it. But yeah, Alberto has made really good contributions to the project over the last several months and been very active as a reviewer. So if anyone has any objections or anything, please speak up. But otherwise, I think we'll plan to merge the PR by the end of the day. Vince, Fabrizio, Alberto, anything you want to add?
Not really. Like for those who don't know me, yeah, I'm Alberto. I used to work for CoreOS. Now I work for Red Hat, and I've been involved with this project since the very beginning. Like we even have CRDs. We have aggregated servers, and yeah. Now, fortunately, I have the time to be contributing more actively. So yeah, I'll be happy to become a reviewer.
Awesome, welcome. Really glad to have you on board, and really glad to see us expanding our reviewer circles. I think we need more active reviewers on the project, so this is a good step in the right direction. Fabrizio?
Yeah. First of all, thank you to Alberto for stepping in. And also would like to remind that we are looking forward to get more reviewers, more people helping the cluster. And what we are trying to do is that, given that Cluster API code base has, let me say, several areas, the test, the cluster cattle, or CapD, it is not required for people to know everything, but they can focus on a single area and become a reviewer of specific subtree of the code base, and this will really help us in reducing the review time, issue triage, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks, Fabrizio. Any other comments or general questions about the becoming a reviewer process or anything like that? If you have questions, you can also reach out on Slack offline, and any of us will be happy to answer your questions. Awesome. Let's move on. All right, discussion topics. Reminder to add any other discussion topics that you want to discuss to the agenda. It's looking pretty empty right now, but let's get started with Fabrizio about the release.
Yeah, thank you, Cecile. So we are at the end of the month, and given that there are some fixes in the 03.branch, mostly regarding KCP remediation and KCP remediation handling etcd node not properly joining and KCP remediation extended support for scaling up from 0 to 3. So these are good things. And also we have Airback proxy upgrade. So I was wondering if we can, or we have to cut a 03.17 release, possibly before the end of the week. And yeah, if there are objections to this, as far as I know, there is only one PR that still have to merge into, or probably maybe it is merged now, because I wrote this comment. Yes, no, okay, this PR is merged, so I think that we are ready to go.
Vince, does that sound good to you? Okay. One question I have, I guess, is like, are we trying to get the 04 release out ASAP, or because I know there's a few bug fixes that have gone in recently, so should we try to backport those for that release, or should we not do that and instead focus on getting Alpha 4 out with everything?
I think the next couple of weeks we should be able to probably release an RC and then quickly at 0.4.0. And we're still blocked on controller runtime 0.9. We can release the RC using a beta tag, and then once they release, which should happen also in the by the end of the month, we should be good to go ahead and release 0.4.0 and just see what bug fixes we need to do in 0.4.1. Probably gonna come up.
Do you have any idea on the timeline of controller runtime release?
It should be by the end of week, at least ready on RC. There's one big M-test change that needs to get merged. So yeah, by next week, we should have the stable release out.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Cool. All right. Nadir, you want to bring up the Q-bar-back proxy? Go ahead.
Yeah, I heard about, there was some discussion last week, and I didn't see any comments on the issue. So I've just been reading through the. Apparently there was some discussion, if I understand correctly, there was some discussion last week about removing Q-bar-back proxy completely. It's definitely causing us issues in terms of like supply chain and multi-arch. And I think there's a question of like, does it matter that slash metrics is authenticated or not? Done some cursory research, it does seem like there is a strong requirement to have metrics endpoints secured and authenticated, and in a number of frameworks. And now it's come up in the context of Cloud Foundry. It's also, more importantly, come up in the first CNCF security review of Prometheus itself, where it was stated that although it's a low risk, that client and metrics endpoints should be authenticated. You don't want to leak metrics data. So it looks like this might mean we would want to move that functionality to controller runtime and then do it there, the subject access review stuff. I'll let Vince take next bit.
Go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, if someone can do that in controller runtime, that would be great. Like, especially if we can have it as part of the like server functionality that's inside controller runtime. That said, like if that just takes too much time, like we could also like just document like a way to do it, and then folks can, because like our published components are just like a baseline, right? Like you could still add more patches on top of it, and one of which could be, hey, I want this flag to be changed from just localhost and or the port, and just secure it that way, so that we don't just like ship it with our components. We usually say like you can opt in by adding this little thing. I was actually going to suggest, given there are like some concerns about keeping it, to maybe also backward kube or back proxy removal to 0.3. It's a breaking change, so we need to be careful about it. That said, like the image that we were using is still old, and we updated to 0.8. But going forward, if we still need to keep publishing some maintenance release for 0.3, while we just declare like out of support, we might want to consider removing it there as well. We don't have to do in the release that's happening this week. We might cut 0.3.18 sooner, but just a thought. I just want to see folks what they think.
Should we mark the removal of kuberback proxy as release blocking for 0.4?
Yes, it's a breaking change, so it should. I thought maybe the issue was, I forget.
Right now, Nadia?
So just to clarify, so we would remove kuberback proxy, but also not expose by default the metrics endpoint on 0.0.0.0, right? So we would keep it on 127.0.0.1, but just remove kuberback proxy. I think that's fine. I think we're not introducing a security risk where there isn't one already. Then,
yeah, I think the main motivation here was just to try to reduce the security footprint and exposure by just having one less thing to ship. But I guess it's a difference between supply chain versus network access to metrics.
Makes sense. Any questions or comments about this topic?
Just a question for me, just I guess based on this, the PR I have open, I saw some comments maybe in the last week since I updated it, I think, about just some edits, but are we feeling like we still want that, the consensus is we still want to have that, get that in, but it's just flag it appropriately as a breaking change and make a few more modifications to the open PR? Is that the status right now?
Sorry, can you say that again? What's the question?
Yeah, just what are the next steps? Just to update the existing like PR and go with that and address the comments on there, or was there additional work to backport it to a different branch?
Oh, I think for now we just want to get this PR merged as, okay. And then we can like discuss backporting it separately.
Okay, great.
Is that what you were also thinking, Vince?
That's all.
Just to clarify the one bit, like Nadir was saying, like we should not expose on all ports, all addresses or interfaces. So maybe we could change this to just be localhost, right? And then if you want to expose that port in the container, you could just do that with like exposing that port to a service or something.
I don't follow exactly.
The PR title is not clear to that. So it just says like 8080, and maybe that's my fault actually, but are we exposing on localhost? I think so, right?
So previously it was just listening on localhost so that kuberback proxy could communicate over localhost and then proxy the metrics with like authorization. The PR I have open now changes it to all interfaces on the pod so that it can be accessed by Prometheus or something directly. But there's the service itself doesn't route to that port. It only routes to the primary traffic port. But if you were to scrape the endpoints and then communicate with the pod on that secondary port, because I added a secondary port on the pod spec, it could be like the metrics address could be accessed. Is that what we're saying we do or do not want?
I would be tempted to say we don't want that. We want to leave it on localhost because we would be introducing then an unauthenticated endpoint. And we would document that you should set you should change the binding address manually, but in our default shipped infrastructure components, leave it closed completely, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. If that's the way we want to go, I can change it that way.
All right. So Zach brought up in the chat, would it be possible to do a quick update on the minor, a minor update on the first cut of the v1.4 release? I think, yes, we're planning on doing that. We should probably get in the habit of doing that either at the end of every meeting or the start in the next few weeks, just to like check in and see where we're at on release blocking stuff. Especially as we get closer, but we sort of started covering that, but let's just do a quick check now, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So we said controller runtime is like one blocker right now, but besides that, let's just take a look. Oh. Yeah, so there's 5 issues that are still open with release blocking, and then there's that PR as well. I should probably remove this. Okay. So let's just, so load balancer provider, that should not be release blocking anymore. No, so I'm gonna remove that. Okay, I'm going from bottom to top, by the way. Adapt clusters got to move to the new multi-tenancy model. There's a PR open. Fabrizio, what's the status on that one?
There are 2 PR out waiting for the first one and the second one that built on top of the first one. They're waiting for review. So.
Okay, thank you. So
we should be fine there.
I think there's only one PR linked to this issue, so I'm not sure where the second one is, but if you can link it.
Yeah, I will link it.
Okay, good. And then we can prioritize review on those. Next one, add conditions to machine deployment objects. Last time I checked, that one also had a PR, which is not linked here.
Yeah, I have a question. I have a question here. So this, if you look at this issue, it has basically a list of a checklist of things to implement, and the PR is only tackling the first one. So I don't know if we want to have something partial in v1.4, because I don't think that we will get to the end of this effort.
I was also confused why this is release blocking if we're just adding conditions.
So I did that as part of the triage a few weeks ago. I think it was based on the fact that it was marked as important and that it seemed like it was breaking, but if not, I think we can remove it. Anyone on the call have more context on that or anything? to add in favor or against. Nader is saying not release blocking, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't think this should be release blocking, actually, now that I'm rereading it. It shouldn't be a breaking change, right? It's additive. Yeah, okay. Let's just kick it out then. Cool. All right. Adapt cluster URL to managers watching all namespaces for each provider. Fabrizio, you're assigned that one doesn't have a PR linked. Is that in progress?
PR out. I will fix the link now.
Oh yeah, there is a PR. Okay, it's this one, right? The second one.
Yeah, no, they are all linked to the same issue. I just break it out the effort in a smaller PR because the change was big.
Okay, sounds good.
I will
and that
fix
one,
the link now.
That one is definitely release blocking, right?
Yeah, because if we don't have these, basically user will be able to create cluster with multiple credential, which is not supported anymore by our YAML file, by our manifest.
Yeah. Okay. And then the last. Okay, I lost the filter. Last one is implement the QADM types. That one was also in progress, right? Or I guess Shank is assigned. I don't know.
Yeah, I've just started work on that. I'll probably get a PR out this week.
Okay, sounds good. If you need any help at any point, let us know, because since this is on the critical path, we want to make sure we're helping you if you're blocked or anything like that.
Sure, thanks.
Cool. Is there anything that anyone is tracking that should be release blocking besides controller runtime that is not in here? And not the metric server thing we just talked about?
Yeah, there's one more thing that I added in the Google Doc, the meeting notes. So there is a PR or two that actually introduce a dependency on Docker as a library directly, and that dependency is being pulled into the main Go mod, which not really a fan of that. So right now, like today in the test folder, there is the Docker provider in there, and that has a Go mod, which we don't release, which is keep that as is, and it's just a way to segregate CapD. But given that there's the framework in there, and there's some other like folders, like packages. I was thinking maybe we could. This should be a decision for all of us to do, because it includes like a lot of changes, to just release the test folder separately, as you know, Kubernetes like releases test framework. What this means is we will remove the Go mod from the capd, bring it up a couple folders, such as in the test folder. The mtest helper should just move away from there, like it shouldn't be in there, otherwise it will cause a cycle dependency with Cluster API. And this will require changes to how we tag during a release, because right now we just tag 040 and that's it. But to cut a Go mod, we would need to cut another tag extra every time, which is test/040, which will tag the inner module. I don't know if there's any alternative that folks know of, like to this. I don't think so. This is what Go mod requires, but I haven't looked if there have been any update to Go mod in a while.
I'm not sure who was first. Fabrizio.
Yeah, just wondering if we tag the release like tag _ version, does Go mod is able to pick up this tag, which is not a semantic version? We have to test this before.
I'm not sure what that means. So for GoMod, like if you want to import the test framework, like right now you just import Cluster API and you have the test framework with it. Later, if you want to import the test framework, you would have to import the test submodule and just say 040. Like that's how GoMod will parse that.
Yeah, but what? How this can work if we are tagging with a different with something different? So maybe we can tackle this offline. But what I don't understand is how the GoMod understand the tags that are for the submodule and what are the tags for the top level module, because the tags apply to the entire repository.
Yeah, let's talk about this offline. It's the prefix that's in there that declares that tag, which it's like 040 for that submodule, which is test. I think Nadir had a comment too.
I'm good.
Any other thoughts on this? In terms of the timeline and the urgency of putting it in 04 or not, what's the what's the rush? Why does it make sense to put it in 04? Or?
I would think so if we want to. So if we want to remove the dependency on the Docker CLI and have instead like CAPD and the test framework to use the Docker library directly, I would rather not have the dependency pulled into like all the binaries that we ship as well. And the only way to do that is to have the framework tagged and be a separate module directly. That said, like the current approach to just shelling out to Docker is working. Like it's not ideal, so we don't have to do this right this second. This is just an idea. We could do this later as well, which probably makes sense. But then that means also we cannot merge those PRs that are in flight.
Okay, so maybe it sounds like I don't think there's an issue for this one right yet. So maybe we need to start with an issue, and then maybe link it to those existing PRs, and either do it together with this or just hold on the other PRs. Okay, and then yeah, sounds like it needs a bit more exploration details in an issue. Vince, are you able to open the issue?
Yeah, and just because I just found that yes, that those PRs are still in flight, so I'm going to put a hold on them for now so that we don't pull that dependency in.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay. All right. Any other questions on this topic? Or any general comments? In terms of the release updates, is this helpful to folks? Do you need more context, less details, more details? Zach or anyone else have thoughts on this?
Just quickly, yeah, I thought this was perfect. Thank you.
Okay, cool. We'll try to keep that up other meetings as well. Cool. Any other last minute topics or general questions from anyone about the project? Or
QBarback proxy, one last follow-up question there. As I'm looking at the PR feedback, that if we want to, totally understand if we want to if we want to set like the localhost address to the default address for QBarback for the metrics endpoint. Can I go ahead and change that in like the flag in the Go file to be a safe default, like so that it's not an unsafe default, but you should but the YAML files uses a safer default than the code itself. That way we don't have to express that in the YAML. It's just the safe default if you're running the application. If you want to opt out and have a separate metrics port, you need to explicitly say which interface other than localhost you want it on. Is that, I mean, does anyone object to that? Is that fine? The default is just to listen on all interfaces in the Go code. So can I just add localhost into the Go code? No objection to that?
Wasn't that in YAML? It wasn't in Go code, right?
It's in, so the Go code, like the flag in the Go code is :8080 or whatever, the 8000.
I see.
Oh,
yeah.
And which is an unsafe default. If we think that's an unsafe default, why would we set that as the default in the code, or use an unsafe default in the code, but a safe default in the YAML? Can we just have a safe default in the code?
Yeah, I think we just use localhost.
Yeah, first of all, Fabrizio's got a comment that yeah, IPv4 versus IPv6 is a problem if you just do 127.0.0.1. Secondly, I think maybe there's an action item that I will take, like find the history of the default, and maybe there is some historical context that we're missing about why it was set like that in the first place in controller one time. And maybe there's a decision made that it was an acceptable default and therefore don't make changes to your PR at all.
Okay.
And yeah, so I'll try and do that today so that you've got an answer.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. All right, before we end, I guess I'm doing this sort of backwards, but we usually have a little welcome at the beginning for anyone who's new. So I see a few new names in the attendee list. So if this is your first time joining this meeting and you want to say hi and just introduce yourself and say what brought you to this Cluster API project meeting, now would be a good time to do so. So I'll just mute myself, and then anyone who wants to speak up can go for it.
Hey guys, here's Anders. So I came from Databricks. Previously, I was in AKS in Azure, work with CCO pretty closely, I guess. But right now I'm in Databricks. I came here to learn about the community. We're also very interested in class API and the recent cluster class proposal. So that's why I'm here. So I'll be here more, I guess, in the future.
Hi, Anders. Great to have you here. Hello from the other side.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Till Hoffmann. I'm from Germany at Daimler. I'm currently writing my master thesis. Not yet specified the topic yet. In general, about infrastructure as code. We'll see where I will get there in the future. And I was invited by Stefan Büringer, who I think joined you or will join you in the future. And he told me a lot about Cluster API and welcomed me to the weekly meetings here. So yeah, hi.
Welcome. Anyone else? All right, welcome both. Great to have you here. And I guess this concludes our meeting. See you all on Slack and GitHub. Bye.